back in April 19, was it 1995 when the bombing happened in downtown Oklahoma City? I remember I was sitting in the office space of our campus here, and of course that happened downtown, and the boom was so loud and shook the ground so much that literally I came out into this auditorium because we were putting a new roof on this building, preparing this building to be open for the first time. And I literally thought the roof had collapsed and had come tumbling down. And then we very rapidly found out there had been a bomb go off, an explosion downtown, a terrorist attack had occurred. Some of us hopped in the car and we raced down and we connected at some stations to try to help people with what was going on. And in our church at that time, we had a fireman, a young fireman in his 20s, probably 25, 26, 27. His name was Scott Wheeler. And Scott Wheeler was actually one of our youth leaders in our youth ministry. Well, Scott, along with every other fireman in our city and region, was immediately deployed and sent into this building. And his wife let us know that he was there helping with the rescue. And if you're not old enough to remember what happened, this went on for days and weeks, trying to first rescue and then recover people that they knew were lost. And I remember when the weekend came, somehow Scott broke away and was able to come to church. It's pretty cool. As overwhelming as that was and demanded as he was desperate to come to church. And he began to describe what they were experiencing. And he talked about, he said, yeah, we have to go through maybe hundreds of feet of stuff, of collapsed buildings where they put a jack under and lift it up just a little bit. And he said there are places that were so small, and he wasn't large in stature. He was physically fit. He wasn't large in stature, but he said he would wedge himself in there. Imagine multi-stories collapsed, on the verge of collapsing totally, pancaking at any time. And he and other rescue workers were wedging into that building, crawling into those tight places. I said, my gosh, what's keeping you from going? Or what's keeping you going? You have to be exhausted. And he said, we can hear the screams of people and we just can't stop. He said, as a matter of fact, they have had to put us on timers for how long we can work, because a lot of what we're digging out, we can only dig by hand. And I said, what do you mean on timers? And they were like 20-minute rotations or 30. I said, what do you mean? He said, listen. He said, we can hear people screaming. We know they're in there. And he said, we are digging so fast. We absolutely are just exhausted. We will run ourselves in the ground trying to reach them, trying to rescue them. And they would discipline them and put them on timers. You can only do it this long, because they were going to kill themselves trying to reach those people. And he would tell some of the harrowing stories of what it was like. And we, as a church, we laid hands on him and prayed for him that Sunday, and all the workers. It was such an overwhelming, unique time. What I witnessed, though, in the middle of that was the heart of a rescuer, was the real heart of humanity. I remember going down there multiple times to connect with him and other firemen, and here's what was cool. The gloves that they were wearing that had been brought, scriptures were written on the gloves. Scripture verses, scripture passages were written on the gloves. There were people that were down there praying over them before they would go in for these rescue attempts. They were emotionally spent. They were stretched to the limit. The emotion, the wave of it was, they were risking their lives. In some cases, just to get to one person. Everything they were doing was channeled towards that. Oh my gosh, you cannot comprehend it unless you were there. You just can't get it. But when I realized how they expended themselves, depleted themselves in the name of just saving one more person. I would hear the story that they would have to detach a leg from someone that was pinned to get the person out and spare them. To find the person that a family member was looking for. And they would talk about that things were shifting and the concern of what was going on. And they didn't care. Because all they wanted to do was run into the building and save that person. And I'm thinking, whatever that is what Jesus had and more when he ran to the cross for you and I. When he ran into the bowels of hell itself for you and I. When he took the ultimate risk for the sake of reaching you and me. When he put it all on the line. When God put heaven on the line to reach you and me. Whatever that heart to rescue is, may this church have that. May each and every one of us have that stirring in us that we are so desperate. We so want to win them to Christ. We so want to be a gospel runner. We so want to step into their burning building. We so want to step into the mess of their life. We so want to put ourselves emotionally at risk if need be. Put our life on hold if need be, work overtime if need be, go the extra mile if need be, because if just one person would respond towards our heart to reach them, friends, in the end, it was worth it. When one person would come out alive, there was a celebration like you can't imagine. There was a celebration, the whole city was lifted and inspired when just one person. You see, there were children who were lost. We had a DEA agent who his office was the target. The ATF and DEA was the target of the bombing that took place. And literally, this man was one of the most disciplined men, never late, ever. And that morning, something happened with traffic, and it caused him to be 20 minutes late. And he missed the explosion. He would have been in his chair when that happened. Another person in our church was on the elevator when the explosion happened, and the elevator went all the way to the bottom. The doors opened, and they walked out safe and whole. There was story after story how God spared people, but there were still many that someone had to go the extra mile for. This world out here is waiting on you to go to the extra mile for them. There's somebody trapped in a destabilized life, someone trapped in a place that's about to collapse upon them, somebody that's caught up in something that's going to take their very life, that's going to ruin their world, that's going to wreck what's going on with them. And you and I have got to decide, I'm willing to run into their fire. I'm willing to run the 10 stories up to make sure they're safe. I'm willing to put myself out there for the sake of others. Come on, we talk about loving Jesus, but let's love Jesus at Paul's level. Let's love Jesus at Peter's level. Let's love Jesus at the disciples' level. Let's love Jesus at the level that Paul would be stoned and just keep on preaching. That he would literally be stoned to death and they would circle around him and pray over him, and he would get back up with knots on his head and scars and wounds and go right back into the very place, because there was somebody that needed to see that God was using him. Someone needed to hear the gospel one more time. Come on, church, let's be that person. Come on, just close your eyes and just lift your hands up towards heaven. Come on, say this out loud. Say, I want to be that person. Use me to be a rescuer. Use me to be a rescuer. I want to be a gospel runner. I want to share the good news. I want to be your messenger. I want to step into the mess. I want to be your hands and feet. I want to be your voice. Come on, let's worship. Come on, let God stir that in you right now.